If you've listened to Behind the Brand before, you've probably heard us mention Cherie Landwehr. Usually right around the time Kelly's talking about how every business owner needs a really good accountant. And she's not wrong. Today, we're pulling that name from behind the scenes and putting her front and center. Cherie is the founder of Landwehr Tax Accounting and the kind of accountant who makes the complicated stuff feel doable and even empowering for business owners. In this episode, we're talking about how Cherie built Landwehr, what's different today than nearly 20 years ago, and what it takes to run a financial firm that feels less like a transaction and more like a trusted partnership. And we'll certainly share our experience working with Cherie and her team along the way, because there's nothing better than a first-hand review. Welcome to Behind the Brand, the podcast for small business owners, solopreneurs, and aspiring entrepreneurs who are ready to start strong, stand out, and stay bold. I'm Taylor.
I'm Kelly.
And I'm Isabella, and we're part of the powerhouse team of marketers at Moxie Creative.
We're taking you behind the scenes to explore what it takes to build and grow a memorable brand.
Ready to get behind the brand? Let's dive in. Hello, Moxieverse. Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Brand. Today, we're joined by Cherie Landwehr, founder of Landwehr Tax Accounting, a local firm she's been building since 2006. And while yes, Cherie does love a good spreadsheet, what really drives her is building lasting relationships with her clients. That mindset has shaped everything about her firm, from the way she leads her team to the services they offer. Cherie, we're so glad that you're finally here. Like we mentioned before the cameras started rolling, we talk about you a lot on this show.
You're kind of a Moxie MVP.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Yes,
I
but
love that.
we have never shared your full story, obviously, and we thought it was a really great time to bring you on to talk about your firm and then to just talk about you and what you do and how you got here. So I'd love to start out with exactly that. How did Landwehr Tax and Accounting get started?
Well, I actually worked for another local firm for 15 years before I started my company. I started in 2006, so not the best time, I suppose, for the economy, but I had actually kind of moved a little bit away from traditional accounting at that time. I became a CFP, so I did some investing. I think I've always just been the kind of person who wants to do more, like, oh, I could do that, oh, I could do that. Always related to financial, but just more than like, oh, here's what you owe on your tax return. So kind of in that growing away, I decided to start my own firm. So that's what I did. I have one son who was 12, so that was a little bit of a challenge at that time, but I was really excited about it. I can tell you I did so many budgets before I made that move. But the intent was to actually go into investing. But I knew I would starve starting from nothing, building that up. So I actually was a partner in my firm at that time. So I bought from the firm about 100 tax clients and went on my own. And I tried to do both, but it just became too much. A financial advisor career, if you're going to do it right, and an accounting career, it's hard to do both at the same time.
Yeah, they're two very big things.
Very big and surprisingly different. Mm-hmm. So I decided to go the tax and accounting route.
Why?
And I think because it felt like I could help more people. With investing, I think a lot of times we were trained to go after the people that had all this money, because that's how you got paid more, obviously. And I just wanted to help basically everyone who needed it. I think I just have a passion for finding those financial things and things that people maybe aren't comfortable with, and being able to explain it and help them out. So
You worked with a lot of small businesses.
I do.
Teeny tiny businesses, because when I first found you, it was a referral from our friend Andy Jacobs. Now we'll have to have Andy Jacobs on.
Who is a financial planner.
Yeah. I think we were just maybe a year or two old when he told me to, go see you. And we didn't have any idea what we were doing, but you were like, sure, I'll help you.
yeah, and we've been working together ever since.
A long, long time.
15 years, 14 years, something.
That is a great segue into what I want to talk about next. Hiring out what you're not good at. We talk about that a lot on this podcast. We're 20 episodes in, and I would say in about 8 of them, say something to that effect. Outsourcing to experts, for many entrepreneurs, especially creatives like us, that can mean accounting. So Kelly, from your point of view, what were you doing before you hired Cherie, and how have things changed since you've been working with Cherie?
Well, someone very wise told me to outsource what you aren't good at the beginning. So then I thought that meant don't even know what it means. Just don't even pay attention to it. Just ignore it. It'll just happen.
Accounting you're talking about.
Yeah. I remember leaving our first office with a box of receipts that I had to type into QuickBooks. I was going to do that at home because we were a startup and we were busy. And then the receipts flying in the wind because they, didn't have a cover on the box. And I remember my business consultant at the time said, I know you can do that, Kelly, but should you? Should you be the one doing that? The thing with Cherie is that she learned about our business. Our business can be a little different. And the accountant I had before didn't understand that some expenses are our expenses for our business, but some expenses are pass-through expenses for our clients. And that can get confusing and things. I was trying to have this first accountant I had bookkeep everything, and they didn't understand, because it could be the same vendor, but it could be a client expense, or it could be our, it just was tricky, and it was getting too confusing. And then when I met with Cherie, we came up with a system where I would record some things, and then she would do some things. So the arrangement that we have is that I do the day-to-day things, like I'll pay the bills and I'll record the deposits, but her team reconciles everything, because that's another thing we learn, right? 2 sets of eyes at least, because you can keep making the same mistakes that usually people do. What I love is that I can do the easy bookkeeping, just track what I'm doing, but their team, I don't even have to track the credit cards. They reconcile the credit cards, the bank accounts. I collaborate with them to make sure things are in the right categories. But it's just a nice fusion of where I still feel like I have some control in directing things, but then they're the experts. And so we actually work back and forth quite a bit. And we're not a very large business, but I so appreciate that team. And
Yeah.
Payroll. No way, I'm not going to do payroll.
So time sensitive.
Yes. So there's a lot of services that you offer, which we will get into. But Kelly, what I'm hearing you say is, you didn't wait until you got in over your head. Well, maybe you did a little bit, but okay.
Yeah, I had a bad tax year from the first account, and that's
Cherie,
why I changed.
I'm sure that happens a lot. Why do you think that business owners kind of wait until they get in over their head instead of hiring that out right away?
I think there's a lot of reasons, actually. I think when you're first starting out especially, cost is a factor. I mean, you think this is something I should be able to do, right? It's just writing out checks and making deposits. And I think, too, with AI now and QuickBooks, full service, I think there's a perception that the software will take care of it, or we can do it on our own. The truth is, you have a lot of other things to do as a business owner. And usually, accounting is not your strong suit. So that gets pushed off, and it's the last thing you want to do, or you're trying to do it on the weekends, or you might be hiring like your receptionist. Oh, you can do the accounting. And they may not have any idea how to do it, but they pay the bills, or as long as there's money in the checkbook. But accounting is so much more than that, and can be so helpful in having a successful business.
Yeah.
I think that's probably part of why they wait too long. The other thing I think too is they don't know what they don't know.
Exactly.
So even especially for taxes, my mom always told me this, or my dad always said I should never show a profit.
And that's not the law.
No, and you don't want to have a business that doesn't show a profit, right? But what you need to learn is, how do I manage this profit in a way where I get to keep that money and not pay as many taxes? Yeah. And I think that's where a good accountant, CPA, tax preparer comes in.
Yeah.
So I want to clarify something,
go
because
ahead.
I didn't wait. I hired an accountant right away. It was not the right accountant for me.
Yeah.
So what happened? So the impetus for me was that it was not a great relationship, where they didn't understand expense things. And then we had a project that came in at the end of the year, and I don't think they were keeping things up to date. And all of a sudden it was like, wow, you made a lot of profit, and now you got to pay all those taxes. And I'm like, what? Sometimes you maybe have to move accounting firms.
That leads me into my next question for you, Cherie. For someone that is just getting started, or even someone that has been working with an accountant forever and it's not working out, and all of a sudden, okay, now they have to pay all these taxes, what are some things that you recommend a business owner look for in their accounting partner?
I think the biggest thing is having someone who has a teacher mentality. So not telling you what to do, but teaching you what to do. Not afraid to communicate. I think stereotypically accountants aren't great at communicating. I have days where I just want to look at that spreadsheet and not a person. But I also get recharged, because I own a small business too. I love to see how a small business is doing. If you have an accountant who doesn't talk to you, they don't communicate with you, they don't give you any advice at all.
Talk to them once a year.
Or you call with a question, you don't hear anything back. That happens so common, unfortunately. I think that's the biggest thing. is okay to change accountants. I think a lot of people, well, now I have someone, it's going to be too hard to change. You'll be grateful to get someone who feels more like a partner.
Okay, I know this is Cherie's podcast, but I
That's
want to
fine.
talk again.
That's okay.
Because I want to give her a testimonial here. Exactly what she said. I want to go back to the QuickBooks thing. This happens in our industry too. Well, I can just go on this website builder and make my own website. So I can just go on QuickBooks, do my own accounting. That's just the tool. That's
Right.
just the technology. When I understood what QuickBooks was doing is when my light bulb went off, when I understood budgets and when I got to that point. And that wasn't for years
Right.
after. And the same thing with, it's your expertise and what you know. It's not QuickBooks. I mean, that's just a tool
Right.
that we can share, but that's so important. And I think that's what Cherie did for us. She taught me why these things matter, just not telling me to do it. I didn't
Yeah.
understand why I was doing it and what it meant. And
And
she's a teacher.
Yes, I love that. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about what your firm does differently. I am in a networking group with Kayla Bacchus,
Yes.
who's a part owner at Landwehr, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
that is correct.
I always love when it's her presentation day or listening to her commercials because she's kind of my first, obviously I talked to Kelly a little bit about, what you guys are doing, but my first toe dip in the water to business accounting. And she's just taught me so much. And there's so many things where I'm like, I don't even know how a business owner could think of not hiring an accountant because she's always like, this is changing and this is changing. and it's just a lot. But your firm has gone through kind of some bigger evolutions
Yes.
in the last couple years. So let's talk about that. You've gotten a new location, you kind of have a new structure, you
Yep.
have new ownership, like I just mentioned. So, what led to that season of change for you guys?
Yeah, so about 11 years ago, I actually worked with the consultants about retiring. So I think this is something too small business owners don't think a lot about. They're just full speed ahead doing their thing. But hopefully someday you want to retire, right? So they said, well, starting earlier is better. So just started on this path of trying to find people who are amazing, sort of that next generation of leaders, so that someday I can retire. That's
But
not,
your
it's
legacy
not
can
anytime
continue,
soon.
right?
Yes. And we were growing. So I think a lot of people, I've been doing this for 34 years now. So this is my first podcast,
Yeah.
which is awesome. But there's a lot of hard work that goes into a successful business. And you want to make sure, if you can, that can carry on, that the work that we've done for our clients can keep going. So that's really what kind of started the whole thing. But having great people means you get to grow. So we've been growing. So that's why we got a new space out in Waite Park, which we love.
It's very nice.
Yes. And about a year and a half ago, I actually brought on 2 partners. So Kayla and then also Ashley Kurzman,
Yes.
which all of our clients know Ashley. I think most of them think Ashley does all the work for the firm, but she's amazing. I couldn't do without her. So I think just that people piece has been great.
Yeah.
But it took a while to find those people.
It
As I
did.
remember, you had,
Yes.
just like we all have had,
Yeah.
some growing pains. And
Yeah, that's been the biggest challenge for me, is trusting that the right people are out there and then taking that leap and hiring, because that's a whole new step on a business too, is having other people
right, and
involved.
your field is not easy. I mean, someone to make it through those tax seasons. A lot of people don't want to work maybe
Yeah,
that hard.
it's pretty grueling.
Yeah.
It's a marathon.
And there's a shortage of accountants, isn't there not?
There is getting to be, yes. When I started in accounting more years ago than I want to say on this podcast, accounting was the big thing to go into at that
Oh.
time, but now it's not so much anymore. So,
But they're reducing some of the requirements, yes.
They are.
Like the hours you need to become a CPA.
yeah, yeah.
Good or bad?
I think it's good. I mean, things change. I like change personally, so I love the idea of the next generation coming in. I think another thing too is a lot of accountants are getting older. I don't know the right way to say
Right,
that, but
that generation
and
is
they're retiring.
Yes, but there's not a younger group. coming
Right.
in.
And I think sometimes they wait too long, which is something that was really important to me too. I don't want to be doing your tax return when I'm 75, but unfortunately that's
what? No.
what I know.
It is. That is
I
kind
mean,
of
I
funny
want to. I don't know if I want
because
to.
I do feel like that is like a thing. Like, oh yeah, my grandpa does taxes
Right.
and holding forward, and he's 80. You know,
Yeah,
Like,
right. Part-time.
Yeah.
And I think too, these young professionals coming up, how do they get into that leadership role when the leaders aren't
Oh, yeah.
leaving? So I think that was something that was important to me too, was, bringing in that next generation. I'm learning how to be a mentor a little better. That's, like
So
I
you've worked
said,
on your
that's
own
been
a
a
lot.
challenge, but that's really important to me right now too. But as far as services that we offer, we are changing that as well.
Yes.
So we're doing something called client advisory services
Yes.
now. So what we have found over the years is that our clients do better when they can talk to us. If we can do more advisory work instead of just the accounting, of course we do all that too,
Yeah.
and you need that. But taking it that next step farther and saying, let's look at your budget. I know Kelly does a budget every year. We look at that. And I think, again, clients would hesitate to go that extra step because do I really need that? Am I going to
How much
get
is
any
that gonna
value out of it?
cost?
How much
Yeah.
is it going to cost me? So now we package that all into one package. They pay one fixed rate, and they get those scheduled meetings, and they get that FaceTime, and they get that advice
Yeah.
that they're not getting.
You're kind of a guinea pig for this,
I
right?
don't think guinea pig.
Well,
I think I was doing it anyway. She
I think
just
I
finally
was doing it before we
She just finally packaged me.
named it.
I just
something.
finally was paying for it. Yeah, I think I was one of the first. She just asked if I would try it. And it was, it's a great thing to ask a client. That's fine with me. Then easier for me to budget, right?
Right.
This much every month.
And I think one thing you were always good at was getting that advice before, like you said, before we packaged it in this way. But you've always been really good at budgeting and kind of knowing where things are going.
Well, not
so.
always, but I remember the year. One summer, like, we're out of money. How come we're out of money? And I called the bank, and they're like, you need a budget, and you need a, I'm like, oh, okay. That's
Oh.
what Sherry's talking about.
Yeah.
It wasn't all from the first day. It took me a while.
Yeah.
Learning curve.
That's growing a business too, though. You baby step into some of that stuff.
So Landwehr, very much like Moxie, you work with a lot of small business owners, and you get, kind of a front row seat to what is going on behind the scenes. And I think that's a unique position to be in and a unique thing to talk about on our podcast because we have a lot of small business owners that listen or that we're trying to reach. Sometimes it can feel like you're alone a lot. You're sitting in your office with the lights low by yourself all the time is maybe a feeling that people get. They have these struggles and like, am I the only one? So what are maybe some of the common struggles you see from small businesses that you can maybe share, obviously in a candid way, to make a business owner that's listening feel a little bit less alone?
You're not alone. I've heard a lot of things. I think one of the things that I usually get complimented on is you don't make me feel stupid. So that's one thing I find so important is if you are sitting there alone and you're struggling and you're like, I should know this, I shouldn't ask anyone. You should ask someone. You can't know everything. And I'm sure that person is very good at whatever it is that they do. And I've always said you have to have the three-legged stool, right? You have to have marketing, you have to have financial, and you have to have operations. And if any one of those areas is struggling, you can't sit on that stool. Don't be afraid to reach out. So some of the common things. One of the things I would say to be aware of is don't get too far behind. So if you're doing your own QuickBooks or if you're doing your own taxes on TurboTax, which hopefully no business is doing, I'll just be straightforward about that, or you're trying to do your own payroll, but you maybe have this uncomfortable feeling that something's getting missed. It probably is. There's a lot of rules out there to be aware of,
Yes,
especially
scary.
now. So sometimes payroll taxes can be missed and things like that. That can get really expensive really quickly. So that would be the biggest thing I think I see is new clients wait too long to get good advice. And once a year is over, there's not much we can do to help. Sometimes they don't come in until they have a big year. Maybe they've had a loss for 2 or 3 years. They suddenly have a big profit year because things are going well. They're not maybe buying new equipment. So they're caught off guard and now they owe a bunch of taxes. Then they have another good year coming. So you just get behind the 8 ball. The other struggle, boy, I don't know. I think I just get so excited about small business. I think there's nothing we can't help them with.
But I do think
get
it's
so
the
nerdy about it. But
reaching out, like maybe
I think it is
like
too.
even in July, half the year's over, but
Yeah.
you can help them still.
Yes.
Right?
And what a great time to get your budget done. Forecast where you're going to end the year. Make sure you're on target for taxes or even plan to start a retirement fund or something like that. There's deadlines on those too. You have to have a simple setup, I believe, by October 1st.
Yeah.
So it's a great time and we're not as busy. So we
Right.
have more time,
Right. You don't need to wait till tax time though
Right.
to get help.
If someone is listening and they're like, okay, I want to call Cherie and her team, what does your onboarding process look like?
Yeah, so with this new model that we're doing, we're actually able to onboard a little slower than we have in the past. So we're not really taking one-off services anymore. We can certainly refer, but let's say you just need payroll. That wouldn't unfortunately be a client that we're currently taking. If you need payroll and you need a tax return and a personal return, a business return, you want that advice, you need some bookkeeping, then the first step is to call our office and talk to Ashley. So Ashley will let you know how we work, kind of the way that the clients that we're looking for, the clients that we're able to take on, and then the client would have a chance to kind of say what's going on with them, and then she's a great first step. And then from there, they get a meeting with me. So then I sit down with them and just kind of get an idea of what they're doing. It's more a meet and greet, so it's a very short meeting. And just a way, again, to answer some of their questions and kind of let them know that we know what we're talking about. And then if they continue to want to work with us, then that's when we really start the onboarding. So what we'll do is we do a quote for each client, and we offer them 3 packages that they can choose from. So the most basic package is just all the things you really need: payroll, sales tax, 1099s, the tax returns, and then we add 2 meetings to that package. And then if you're maybe a little bigger and you want to do budgeting and forecasting and things like that, that you'd be in the middle package. And then we have a higher package where we're meeting with you very often. We're doing what if scenarios and things like that.
Wonderful. I love that.
So a what if scenario would be, let's say that you have a very successful branch. I'll just use an accounting firm as an example. So we have our accounting firm in Waite Park, and let's say, what if we started another branch in Monticello? What would that look like? And then we help forecast and kind of see, what expenses are you going to need? Are you going to need office space? How many clients are you going to need to break even? That kind of thing. And break even isn't the goal, by the way. You want to have a profit. So maybe another thing for new businesses too is really get interested in what your profit margins should be for your industry and start having some targets to hit, because it'll keep you more motivated. But that's kind of what I'm talking about in terms of this.
I think we've done that. Like, what if I hire this person? What will it cost? Right.
Yep.
Because it's way more than just a salary.
Right.
It's the benefits and
Yep.
all. Yeah.
That's an entrepreneur.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Have you had to turn some clients away, maybe that have always been with you that only do one-off services, or do you just not take new ones?
So I really have a heart for everybody. So that's been a little bit of a transition. That's been tough for me to not be able to do all the things, right? I want to be able to do all the things. But yeah, we've had to let a couple of clients go that we were maybe just doing payroll for. Not very many, though.
Okay,
No.
good.
And
Oh,
we
that's
don't
good.
anticipate that happening. Right now, I think there's a wave in St. Cloud of letting clients go. I don't want to say firing clients because that sounds very
Yeah, we
negative.
run into that too
Yeah.
with our competitors not working with the
Yeah.
very small clients, but we do.
Yeah. When I talk about doing all the services and adding advisory, it doesn't mean you have to be a multi-million-dollar company. In fact, that's outside of our range. Really, we look at revenues. We say 750,000 to 11 million is our sweet spot. We certainly have clients that make revenues less than 750,000. So it's not that we would turn away. And if you are a new client that doesn't fit our model, we would have some referrals for you as well. So,
Right.
it's not that we're just going to say, no, we don't work with you. You're too small. Click. I hate that mentality.
Right.
I didn't like it in financial services, and I don't like it in accounting. But the truth is there's only so much any one person can do, and we can grow. But like you said, shortages of accountants and things like that. We've just found, I think, what our niche is. It's not necessarily one certain type of industry, but it's that small business client who's too big to just have someone paying the bills, but not big enough where you're having a full-time controller
Exactly.
on your payroll. I
Right.
think that's where our sweet spot is.
Right. And I just think that if you think you only need one service from you, you're probably wrong. You need all the
Right.
services.
There might be something, again, I have to do sales tax. I didn't even
Right,
know I had to do
exactly.
sales tax.
I just remember during COVID, all the things that you guys were
Mhm.
doing. You were calling me and telling me about. I know that was a whirlwind of a time for you guys with all the changes, but you guys
Yeah.
were doing so much stuff for your clients. I thank you for that.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I definitely don't want to, get political on here, but since COVID, has the tax landscape changed, and it's still changing? And I'm asking because, like I mentioned, I'm in a group with Kayla, and we also have another accountant in our group, and she does, the
Yes.
bigger clients. And every week they're bringing in all these new laws, and it just feels like, okay, there's always something new. And I don't know if that's
Pretty normal.
always
right?
been the case or if in recent years that is more the case. So just, curious
Yes.
if certain situations
Yes,
have,
all of
have
that.
elevated things for you guys?
Yes, the answer is yes. It has always been the case. Without fail, a couple times a year, I'll have a client say, what are you going to do when they have the flat tax? And I just chuckle because the tax law has become so political. I've been doing this for a long time, and more than ever is a political. It's a
Yeah.
way to get elected.
Tool.
It's a way to use something against your political opponent. So yes, it's very political, and there's still a lot of changes going on. I think the idea is we want to try to make it simpler, but I think a lot of times what happens is it becomes more and more complex.
Yeah.
And we just had another new tax bill pass, so this year will be very interesting.
Yeah.
We'll be sending out emails to our clients.
What's
about
that?
this. Yeah, yeah.
They go in effect the next year. Sometimes they're retroactive.
Right.
And
And
you're-
there are some for 2025 yet, so we'll
Oh,
want to make sure
boy.
that we get out to our clients with those things. But
Great.
I think that's something too. You could go out on Google and say, "Tell me about the new tax bill." What do you do with that information? How do you apply it to your business
Yeah.
if you don't have anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the expertise, not the tools.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I think that's why we like the advisory model so much. See, I'm nerding out
You're
now.
good.
Is because
We love it.
we now have an opportunity to say, did you think about this? How can this help you? This is something that's perfect. You should be working on this aspect or that aspect. And we filter through all of the things to just let you know what it is you need to know. And most of the time, you're like, I trust you. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, Cherie, before we let you go, we like to ask all of our guests 2 questions to keep things connected. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, wonderful. What is your go-to business tip for someone thinking about starting a business?
I would say be prepared to be more than what it is that you do. So if you're starting a business to be a plumber, let's say, be prepared to be a business owner too. There's a lot of things that come along with being a business owner that is different than being an employee. So I would just say be prepared for that. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. Get a good marketer. You gotta get a plug-in for Moxie.
My answer is always get a good accountant.
Those things just make such a big difference.
Yeah. And then the second one, what's one piece of advice you've received that's made a difference?
The biggest piece of advice was I had a business coach and I was worried about getting outside of my comfort zone, right? They're like, oh, you need to get outside your comfort zone. She said, it's okay to be in your comfort zone. So I think that tied to just the realization of figure out what it is that I do well, that only I can do, and spend most of my time in that. So I think it's the focus
Exactly.
part. And I think for entrepreneurs too, like we want to do everything, right? I wanted to be a CFP, which I am. I wanted to be a CPA. I wanted to do this. I want to do that. But once I really said, okay, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm good at, I think life gets easier and then you can offer a better service to your clients too.
I love that. I don't think I've ever heard be in your comfort zone. It always
Right.
is step outside your comfort zone, but
Right.
maybe that's not always the right advice. That is great.
That goes along with do what you do best and
Yeah.
Right.
outsource the rest.
Yeah.
Right.
But you're like,
Yeah, if
like-
your comfort zone is sitting on the couch watching TV, that's probably not
Yeah.
what I mean. But I think people will naturally come back to their comfort zone because it's what they're good at
Yeah.
and it's what makes them passionate. So let
you
them
can
be there.
hire other people to do
Right.
the other things.
Wonderful. Well, Cherie, thank you so much for being
Thank
here
you.
and for everything you do behind the scenes to keep businesses running smoothly.
Including
Especially ours. We are so appreciative of you and all that you do. So we talk a lot on the show about building a brand, taking risks, and dreaming big, but none of that works without structure. And that structure almost always starts with a good accountant. So if you're in a season of growth or chaos, it might be a really good time to call Cherie and her team.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
I would recommend it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks.
See you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Behind the Brand. If you like this episode, share it with a friend. If you didn't, share it with an enemy. To keep up with us, follow along on our socials. Links are in the show notes below.